Let's call the meeting to order. It's 6:30. Please stand for the pledge. Pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America, which stands one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So before we start this public forum, I do have a statement to read. So ladies and gentlemen, we are about to convene into the public comment period of our meeting. Although state law does not require us to hold a public comment period, we are chosen to do so because we believe it is crucial for us to hear from our community members about their concerns and issues. Having said that, please note that the board is here to listen. The public comment period is not designed to be a discussion. Accordingly, please do not expect the board to respond to your concerns and questions tonight. This is because we take our concerns and questions seriously. We want to have sufficient time to process and research issues if need be. We will, however, respond to your questions and concerns at a future meeting or have the proper staff member get back to you at the appropriate time. I also want to point out that under state and federal privacy laws, we are unable to entertain any comments or questions about school personnel. Please know, however, that we take personal concerns very seriously. On these matters, we would ask you to go through the appropriate administrative channels. We do have a chain of command, which is on our website, and you can check that out to see who you need to speak to as you go up the chain. Finally, we recognize that right now our nation and our community are polarized on a number of issues. That said, we want our students that members of our school board and members of our community can deal with controversial issues in a civil manner and demonstrate mutual respect for one another. In that spirit, we will insist that all speakers and members of the audience maintain civility and respect for any divergent views that others possess. We ask that speakers please address the comments to the board directly rather than the audience. In the unlikely event that the meeting becomes unruly, the board will recess the meeting and return once order has been restored. Finally, I want to remind everyone that you may submit written comments to the board in lieu of speaking during the public comment period if you choose so. Each individual speaker is allotted 3 minutes. The individual time limits will be enforced so that as many members of the public who wish to speak may be allowed to do so. So, first up, we have Christine Costa.
Hi, I just want to say that as you've seen, there's boxes outside. I put it, I think, on just about every kind of social media out there, where the support staff is doing a coat and boot drive. We're also accepting gloves, hats, snow pants, anything to help the community. Bernetta Moore is helping us with it. She works and runs the Road Jam Food Pantry, and along with Philmont, they're working together. And that's for October. And then in November, we're planning on doing a food drive also to help them fill up the food pantries. And then December, also helping families that are in need. So I don't know if I missed some kind of media last night, if you guys could put something out that we're doing it. The only thing is we're just gonna do it till the boxes get filled up, and then that's it. It's gonna stop. Just, one-time shot, fill up the box.
Christine, are you taking adult coats as well as, all?
Coats, winter coats,
Okay,
hats, gloves, boots, anything, because from what we're seeing with the squirrels and the woolly bears, we're gonna have a rough winter, so. And any size really, because like I got a 15-year-old that sits behind me who's 6'3", okay, so
Yeah.
any size, little to adult, all
I
right?
think I'll have a bunch of stuff for you.
Chris,
Thank
if you
you.
send me something, I'll make sure it gets put on our Facebook.
Okay, thanks.
And I'll share your post. I did see that.
Okay, thank you.
Next up is Shayna Smith. Hi, Shayna.
Hi, guys. So I'm just gonna, so you can hear me. So good evening. The Faculty Association is very proud of an event we will be hosting next Friday. On October 29th, we'll be organizing a trunk or treat event that is open to students and families from pre-K through grade 6. It will give local families an opportunity to trick or treat in a safe environment while building relationships with their teachers. The event will run from 4 to 6 p.m. and more details will be coming out later this week. So it's kind of something that came together fast, but we're trying our best, and it's something new. Looking at the agenda, I'd like to address some issues that are in conflict with the goals the board plans to adopt tonight. I'll speak to the kids first goal first. And I totally agree that we all should be here for the kids first, and I know I live by that goal every day. In terms of fiscal responsibility, the auditor's report states that we now have over $21 million in the fund balance, which includes over $3 million in new funds due to an overestimation of last year's expenses in the budget. This has been a consistent issue with the district and has been a problem identified by the comptroller's office. It is concerning that the issue wasn't adequately addressed by the auditors or by our business office, who has previously been warned of this practice. In addition, it is very concerning and appears unethical that one member of the senior management group will be receiving an unprecedented raise. When this member was appointed to the new title, it was said that there would be no changes in responsibility and no additional money. It was simply an effort to make the member eligible for TRS. It's stunning to see a 20% raise followed by a 9% raise when the other associations have recently been offered and accepted raises no higher than 2%. It was made very clear that the Board of Ed would never agree with a higher percentage for those other units. We clearly didn't have the right members in our association. I think the board should table this item so the public and members of the Board of Ed have the time to properly discuss the implications and appearance of such a raise. In terms of collaboration, the first time I saw these goals was when the agenda was posted. I would hope the president of the Faculty Association would have a role in developing the district's goals. I have participated in book studies where faculty and staff have brought up that they goals as we are all stakeholders. It's just I appreciate and welcome that communication is one of your goals. I am hoping that moving forward, the Board of Ed will consider having more open dialogue and the various associations with the various association presidents at Taconic Hills. Yesterday, the governor signed a law requiring documents that are going to be discussed at open meetings to be made available on request or posted on the organization's website at least 24 hours prior to the meeting. It's concerning that the late item agenda for tonight is posted only 2.5 hours before the meeting, not giving the community a chance to review it, specifically the new item that had been added. And in closing, again this month, I'm sad to say we are losing we have two members leaving. On a personal note, I'm very sad to lose a very close friend of mine and a fantastic colleague, Katie Dirks. She has helped build the art program we have today with me. I previously voiced my concerns about staff retention to some of the Board of Ed members, and I hope other members are becoming aware of this issue. I wish this wasn't the way I have to communicate with the board, but I hope you understand the frustration of those.
Thanks. Okay. Randy, I need a motion for the acceptance of the agenda. Heidi? Joe second. So there is one item, the leave of absence on number, on C, 9C. We will table that until we go into after executive session. So that will be on after. Okay. All in favor of the agenda? Thank you. I need a motion for the acceptance of the consensus agenda. Can I have a motion? Bill, second. Ron? Let's go through that. We have some resignations. Let's see, anything that stands out here. Anyone have any questions on any of that? Okay. Thank you. All right, we have presentations. Victor Churchill. Here you are, Victor. Oh, I came in with you. Didn't recognize you with the mask on.
I will remove it to make it easier for you to hear.
Thank you.
So I've been told that most of the time you still hear me anyway. This is the abbreviated discussion. The
Audit report was reviewed in detail with the audit committee a little while ago at this point. So we're going to do the summary version. The key to this year's audit report is the type of auditor's opinion is unmodified, which is plain opinion. And I just want to reiterate that within your audit report, every major fund and the NTY financial statements, there's an opinion on each one of those areas. And then all the non-major funds are added together. There's that opinion on that also. What the clean opinion actually means is the financial statements are fairly stable. And that's important to note. Whatever message is sent through those statements is that the statements are materially fairly stated. And
Do
that's
you have a presentation that's got to go up there? Okay, all right,
because we did the PowerPoint with the audit committee,
okay.
either manually or projected, but this we're just doing a summary one. Okay. The other thing that's included in the audit report is a report on controls, compliance with controls and laws and regulations. And there was nothing of a material nature that needed to be brought forward in that. The other report that goes into an audit report as well is a report on management letter items. Management letter items are those items that do not rise to the level of a internal control report finding, because those things that go into an internal control report finding are those things that could lead to a misstatement down the road. It's either a significant deficiency or a deficiency that's of the nature that it could lead to a material weakness. And that type of item is just something that's identified that perhaps would not be located or identified a time period so that it would keep the financial statements from being. The other thing I want to observe is there was a change in accounting principle this past year, and it was more of a time commitment than a material change to your financial statements. Not that numbers aren't necessarily important, but GASB 84 is what it was. And what it did is it did away with the agency fund, which is a fund that historically has had the liabilities for payroll in it and the extra classroom and scholarships and things of that nature. What its purpose was is to put back into the fund of origin all the payroll liabilities. So that if there is a liability for payroll, be it withholdings, things of that nature, it sits in that fund, general fund by and large in the school district, a little bit in the special aid fund, and a little bit in the cafeteria fund as well. But those liabilities will stay with the fund. The extra classroom, depending upon who makes the decision on the expenses, it's now in its own fund called custodial fund, because you have adopted a process put out by the state education department where the students are deciding what to do with their money. Overall guidance rests with the Board of Education, but the format and the pamphlet, if you will, that is followed, clearly identifies that the students and the student meetings decide what they're raising money for and what they're. So that has a little bit of a nuance in the audit report opinion, in that it's identifying the fact that there is a change in accounting principle, and it directs you to where to find that in the footnotes. When you do find it in the footnotes, you'll see that the numbers are modest as to what the total dollar amount is of that change, but administration can probably attest to it. It took a while because what was in one agency fund could have ended up in a minimum of 3, if not 4, various funds throughout the district to be accounted for appropriately. Part of the closing of the audit is a report that comes to the board, and there's one original copy of that. And that I just want to share is a report that identifies what are the material estimates that are included in your financial statements. The other post-employment benefits, retiree self-insurance, current employee self-insurance is a large item that is in there, and that's identified in there. Capital assets and depreciating those, material estimates that are in your financial statements. Compensated absences. Compensated absences are unused sick time and vacation time, and depending upon the collective bargaining unit as to how they get calculated, because they're different usually by each unit. And the pension plans is the final item in there that's material. But those are items that by and large affect your entity-wide financial statements, not your general fund, your special aid fund, cafeteria fund, or your capital fund. So I wanted to make sure we covered those things. And then I would ask, is there anything from the audit committee that anyone on the audit committee or administration wanted to put forward specifically? One of the things in the PowerPoint we just discussed in there is stewardship footnote. Stewardship footnote identifies what budget was adopted, what the changes were to the budget for the year, carryover encumbrances and things of that nature. If there were any, it would identify any major budget categories that were overspent, nothing significant there. It addresses where the district stands with respect to real property tax law and 4%, that's identified there. Plus there is a specific SCD schedule that they want in the audit report, and that is identified there as well. And another footnote of importance is where the district stands with collateralization, because you either have to have FDIC insurance or collateral put up by the bank for every dollar of cash that's on deposit with the bank. And there was nothing startling or out of the ordinary there as well. Everything that's reported on Extra Classroom is a separate audit report. It is in there as well. That may change in the future as to being a separate audit report. I would envision that SCD might put that into a supplemental schedule, because now one of the potential benefits of this GASB 84 is that there's now a custodial fund within your financial statements. So it would just dovetail now for it to be a supplemental schedule, because custodial fund does already represent total revenues and total expenses. It just does by extra class activity. So now it even makes dovetailed in there as a supplemental schedule. So that's something that could come to pass, because it's SD that's looking for that separate presentation. Education law does look for it to be audited. It is being audited. It's just, how does it get reported? So that's something that could come into play in the not too distant future. Any questions in the short presentation? No questions from the art committee at this point. If you haven't heard anything, and that was shared with me that there was no additional questions. So that's what I want to make sure we cover.
You gave us lots of reading material.
Gave you lots of reading material. The financial statement is not getting shorter. The only that I would say is the GASB 84 did not have some footnotes. GASB 75 did, which was the last really big one. And you'll see there's a jump from 75 to 84. So there's been other GASB changes in there, but not every GASB change brings with it significant disclosure or things of that nature. GASB 84 is more about where things show up, and not a significant change in disclosure. 75 was a 3-page footnote, and we have a 6 or 7-page footnote. So it's not longer than it was. And if, knock on wood, they do move to a supplemental schedule, something like Extra Classroom, that will drop about 6 pages in the audit report for the future. If there are supplemental questions, if there are questions you can push through administration, please do so. Board of Education hires us as the auditor. So if there is ever a question that you do feel can't go through administration, I just ask that there's one point person, the chairperson of the audit committee is probably the most logical, but not chairperson of the audit committee, the board chair, to contact us so we can communicate with you directly. Because we are hired by the board. We work through administration, but our responsibility is. Thank you for your time.
Next up is Stella, special education. Ellen, can we early and
Great.
praise, I'm sorry.
Oh, literally every time.
Cool. So we're here with 3 school psychologists and myself. The Every Student Succeeds Act requires that every school district inform parents, families, and the community about the special education program. As we put this together, I thought of there's an old time New York City store that would say, an educated consumer is our best customer. So thinking about our community, an educated community is really the point that we would like to be at in terms of meetings, things flow smoothly, and we have the best of information for our students.
Hi, everybody. I'm Veronica. Nice to meet all of you. So essentially, right, what is the special education plan? What is the purpose? What is it for? I mean, besides being a requirement, it really is a comprehensive look at what special ed is, and of course, in turn, is not. You know, historically, special ed has been looked at as labels, as numbers, and as places, right? The special ed classroom. So really, though, special ed, we're looking at to aim to really make the general education curriculum accessible to all students through special ed programs and services. So really moving away from that idea of secluding students, isolating students, to really including them in the gen ed curriculum as much as possible. But of course, how's that done? Easier said than done. So I think the biggest thing for me that I always say to people about special ed, the biggest takeaway, is to look at that simple phrase in that last bullet, safe and an LRE. Create an appropriate public education in the least restrictive environment. Okay, but what does that really mean? So, but you know what? Thank you. So of course we get to the continuum of supports and services, right? The least restrictive to the most restrictive. And when we say LRE, least restrictive environment, we are talking about an environment, right? The gen ed classroom all the way, of course, to the extreme of something like hospital or a residential facility, most extreme. But it's not just the environment we're talking about. We're also talking about not only the where, but the how, right? The types of support, services, and programs that we're putting in place to meet those individual student needs, meet the student where they're at. So, thank you. So we could be talking about something as simple as like related services, right? Occupational therapy, physical therapy, counseling, speech and language, right? That might be all that student needs. Or even resources, right? They need some supplemental instruction, additional practice, pre-teaching, just extra focus in that specific area of need. Consultant teacher model. Perhaps they just, the gen ed teacher needs to consult with the special education teacher to provide some guidance on how to modify instruction. Or even direct, where the special education teacher is actually interacting with and teaching the student, modifying the curriculum for them, right then and there. Of course, more restrictive, the special class setting, right? Where the students are actually working with the special education teacher for the majority of the day, and then integrating in the gen ed population, maybe at lunch, recess, and specials. And of course, the most extreme at the out of district placement. So the thing to really drive home here is that it's not just the environment, but also the how, again, the types of programs, the services, and the individual ways that we can meet those students' needs.
So, along with the detailed continuum in the special education plan, we felt that it was important to include a section use commonly used terms. So we did this for a number of reasons, but as we all know, terms and acronyms in schools are confusing, and there's like so many acronyms. So it being someone from outside the school looking in, it's almost like a whole new language that you have to learn. So SBA, CST, BIP, CSE, ESY, it becomes very cumbersome. And then to move even further, once you say, okay, SBA, a functional behavior analysis, well, what even is that? So part 200 is the due process procedures, and that is in that parental rights and safeguards. And one of the most important parts that I think of all the time is informed consent. So then we get to the meaning of informed. What does it really mean for our families to be informed of special education? What's going on, the process, and everything that's involved? And I think that if we think of informed as just written notice, we're not really doing the community a service. I think informed should go further. So this way, parents, families, an outline of all of these terms in case they need to reference back, in case they need to know a little bit more about what it means. And that way they can have a deeper understanding when it comes to the conversations that we're likely to have. Because it's easy for us to think these terms are something that everyone might know, and that is not. So with the due process procedures and informed consent, we're looking to increase the homeschool alliance. So
we know that the most effective way to work with these families is to work as a team. So this way of them being as informed as they possibly can is a way for them to become the most active members of the Committee of Special Education, so that they can contribute their thoughts, their opinions, and their needs, as well as hearing our side of the story. So working as a team, family, teachers, service providers, and the students is the most effective way to make sure that we're providing the best education we possibly can. Transparency is key.
They put a slide up there for me. Thank you. One of the things that happens when kids are in preschool, when they're getting services, preschool services from ages 3 to 5, is there's no classification. They're all just called student who needs services, student with a disability, preschool student with a disability. That's it. When they hit kindergarten, we have to come up with 13 different categories. That can sometimes be difficult for a family to go from sort of your kid just has a little bit of a difficulty, we're not really naming it, to suddenly naming it. The one that we use most is student with a learning disability. That's probably, our largest category of disability. Some of them, they have, parents have a difficult time hearing, and it becomes really an issue of negotiating and explaining what it means. Like right in the center, you see a student with an emotional disturbance. It's a hard one for a parent to understand, so that's where the collaboration and informing the parents and having a real sit-down discussion helps. So that's my slide.
And the last slide is talking about data. Where our students are in terms of the full continuum of services. So at the bottom, all students are eligible for what we call improvement services. In speech or in occupational therapy. They may not be writing correctly. They may need some intervention for a month or a couple of months. And then we move up to students who would be identified and they would be in related services. So they would only be receiving speech therapy, occupational therapy. They might have counseling. And then we move up into the continuum in terms of education. So consultant services, whether it be integrated co-teaching or consultant teaching in the class, with related services. Then we would have consultant teaching services or integrated teaching with resource room and related services. And then as you can see, we're getting smaller and smaller self-contained students with related services. And then we have added district students. And that's it.
Any questions? All right, thanks for listening.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Now we go on to reports, so superintendent.
Okay, so this week is New York State School Board Recognition Week. And I'd like to do a special thanks to Mrs. Kipnis's class for their gift to the Board of Education. It's in the wrapper there, painting done by some of our students. So please take that as a gift. Also like to tell the board that the New York State Insurance Reciprocal has a few more small things for us that you'll find there. Mouse pad, sort of a stress boss, a clip, and some other items that you may find useful in using the cell phone. I'd like to thank the Columbia County Emergency Management and Sheriff Dave Bartlett for providing the district with a couple of cases of the Ford mask. Those are the white masks that are highly coveted by students and staff. So we've got a new supply of those. They go very quickly. Let's see, the pool and fitness center is partially operational and open to the public, so we're making some strides there. We're also talking with the Hudson Valley Center of the Performing Arts, which would like to use our pack, the Lyle Hand Pack, to present the Nutcracker. And so we're working through this with the health department to try to make that happen. And there are several other organizations out there that have approached us. And we're trying to meet the needs because, we want the building used, but we want the building used safely. We do have a Board of Education student member. She could not be here tonight, Madeline Dennis. So we look forward to her being with us next month. I had a nice conversation with Delgado's Senior Legislative Director, Chelsea Glenn. We talked about numerous items, but some of the ones that are on their plate are TikTok, the challenge that has some children doing some not so nice things as far as damage to the school and maybe physical violence towards staff members. So we also talked about Facebook's responsibility for postings that could disrupt the educational process, along with several other companies, and they're looking at federal legislation to try to curb that. We also discussed vaccines, remote learning, and disruptions at board meetings. And Mrs. Torsia did read the statement that was recommended by the New York State School Boards Association. We've continued with our weekly meetings with the Columbia County Department of Health and our regional superintendent meetings twice a week to discuss a variety of issues. Most of them revolve around COVID, quarantining, and how to handle the latest surges and the new data that comes in every single day. So I'd like to show the board our new PCR testing equipment. This is for point of care, and we hope to have this in operation by November 1st. Individuals are being trained on it, and this will allow us to test legally people with symptoms. This is a step up from the antigen test. The hospital is well now, or well care, or any of the urgent cares. The trouble is that the tests are $41 a piece, and that's not bad, but it can run up a bill very quickly, depending upon how many people you're testing, as opposed to $5 a piece for the antigen test. So we're trying to work through this right now. We're waiting for more supplies to come in to start the process and start the testing. If we start it, we want to make sure we've got enough to continue it. And there are shortages out there that we're trying to deal with. Let's see. Pardon me?
The symptoms that you said are,
Point of care?
yeah, what are those? Or,
What are the symptoms?
yeah. what
Well,
was
they
it?
could vary. You know, if the nurse thinks that this person may be showing some sort of signs, which are varied, we'll then have the ability to test them as well as staff members. You know, and that'll give us some objective information very quickly to decide what to do. Now, some people who test negative still may be required to go home based upon what their symptoms are. So they may not have COVID symptoms, but there are other reasons why we would not want people here for other communicable diseases. So that hasn't changed, such as your temperature being too high, other physical ailments as well. Okay, so we have approximately 79% of all staff vaccinated at this point, and we've had 35 positives from the beginning of September of staff and students so far. It is not broken down by the Delta variant. I just wanted to let you know about that. If you didn't know already, Mr. Bender, Craig Bender, has resigned. We're going to talk a little bit about that later, and probably an executive session on how to move forward. And the calendars are out, and you'll find them at your seat in front of you. And that's it for me. Thank you.
I wanted to ask, when you talked to the Delgado people, did you ask about the apprentice?
Yes.
Act, what they
Yeah,
say?
so they were under a kind of a different opinion. We talked about being 16 years of age and qualifying for apprenticeships. They thought that was more of a state issue than a federal issue, but they were willing to look into it for us to see what the New York State Department of Labor.
Do you know California that they're doing that? They're giving in school districts, they're teaching them to drive trucks. CDLs,
Oh,
California.
okay. I don't know exactly where Delgado's office, the office seemed very interested in the idea for New York State. But they were a little less clear on the role the federal legislative process would play.
Okay, next up, we have, Mary D'Amico, pre-K through 6.
Good evening. We have been keeping very busy in the elementary school. We recently had a fire prevention day, which was scaled back because of COVID, but we had pre-K through 4th grade there. And all of the firehouses within the school district were represented. So it was actually a really good time for the kids. And since then, all of those students have sent thank yous in one way or another to those firehouses. We continue our Tighten Strong initiative is up and running, where we're really trying to focus on positive things that students do, and students are getting certificates for that. So every Friday, we announce the names of the Tighten Strong winners for the week, and then pictures are taken and they can be seen on the website, and they can also be seen on the monitors throughout the building. We are going to have a pre-K fall festival next Friday. Again, because of COVID, typically in the past, we have had it with the parents. We just don't have the room for that. But the students are very excited to do all of their activities. And finally, Friday afternoon, towards the end of the day, we're going to have our Halloween parade. So we're keeping busy.
This Friday?
The 20
Thanks. Next up, Jim?
If we are ever able to offer CDL training in the school, you can guess the part of the parking lot out there where our student parking lot, where they'd be lining up waiting to be able to drive those trucks. So, we have a lot of kids who'd be interested
I'm
in
gonna
that.
make it happen if I have it. Nothing else, Jim.
If you can do that, Bonnie,
I'm gonna do my best.
Thrilled, and I'll be right there with you.
I want them to too.
Correct.
Again, this is all legislation that's, I mean, they're in desperate need of truck drivers right now. So they are
I know, but I think the law is every 21 to drive across the state line.
possibly, I mean, I'm not sure, but they can still drive in New York State.
Just throwing out.
Oh, good point.
At a minimum, getting kids introduced to things like that, give them other career ideas, and it can help them find a pathway, beyond high school.
They make good money.
Yeah, they certainly do.
Yep.
It's amazing, but we're still doing interviews. This is a year of change, and when I think about it, I was kind of run through, since the beginning of the year, we've been either trying to fill or making do without positions in CTE, AIS, language, art, music, now science, and also, in our counseling department. It's just constant holes are popping up. I'm hoping Nick's going to bring back contractors so that we can get a bigger pool of candidates like we had over the summer with this guys walking through. But overall, we're trying to make sure that we're not cutting back on opportunities for students. And so far, we've been able to do that. And we hope we're going to continue on that same path. One of the things that was done in the high school was Henry, about 2 weeks ago, ran a contest with our staff to write have people write as many positive referrals as possible, and had just a huge number of teachers writing positive referrals about kids, which is always a pleasure to hand out to them to get to their parents. It made a difference for a lot of these kids. And even though the contest is over, we're still seeing teachers and adults still writing these things. It wasn't so much about 1 week, it's about trying to instill that in our staff, that the more you recognize students for the good things that they're going to do, the less of the other behaviors you're going to see in those same students. So
I like that.
thought it was a great idea by Henry, and it's worked out well for us. I'll point out before I finish, just one last group that I think is doing a great job for us. As I watched the special ed presentation, I'm looking at Kevin up there, and I had a thought in our counseling meeting we had this week that Kevin and I are the only two in this meeting of about a dozen people that have more than 3 years of experience. We have such a new counseling staff, and that includes our social workers, psychologists, guidance counselors, even our SRD and other administrators in the high school. But despite this, new group of talent that we've got, they have really come together and worked as a strong team, dealing with a lot of the social emotional problems that our students have always had and have brought back from, all the issues with COVID. I'm watching people that have never worked together, handle mediations between seventh grade girls, which might be the toughest group in the world, the seventh grade girls. They can handle it, and they're working together with each other, and we're seeing progress from the kids. And that we knew was going to be one of the biggest challenges this year, dealing with social emotional problems with a new staff. But I couldn't be happier with the team that we've got and how they're handling these things. Thanks.
Thanks, Jim. Sandra, she's hiding back there. Hi,
Good
Sandra.
evening. So, one big announcement, you voted in September to approve the CTE programs, and we have heard back from the state that we are approved for both programs. So,
Awesome, yay.
thank you to the board members that supported that. Thank you especially to Brad Boyles, who took the lead as the content coordinator in that effort. It was a giant lift, and we're very proud, and that goes right along with your wish for CBL. So it's a step in the right direction.
It is.
So other than that, one of our other big initiatives we're working on is liars training. And liars training is about phonemic awareness and phonological usage in language and the science of reading. So our teachers are going to have the opportunity to participate. It's quite a heavy study for them. It's like taking a college course. They will have 4 6-hour training sessions and homework and assignments to do in between that. The trainer estimates approximately 100 hours total. So they will be very busy doing that. I think it's a great initiative, not only for what it is, because it's really important that we understand the science of reading, and that's not taught well enough in our teacher prep programs, but also all the Columbia County schools but one is participating in this. So when we talk about transitions from school to school with a lot of our students that are actually struggling readers, having that same background from all the Columbia County schools will be a wonderful asset, I think.
What
So.
school or can you not talk?
But we're doing really well with getting signups for that, and we're also collaborating with a few other districts to take the training, which I think is also valuable because they have perspectives from other districts. So other than that, we're planning for our November 2nd Staff Development Day, which keeps us busy. So that wraps it up, I think, for our department.
Thanks, Sandra.
You're welcome.
Sybil, you're up next.
So you received a hard copy of the audit tonight, which you received on Friday in electronic form. It has been submitted to the comptroller and to SED. What I complete after that process is a document called the ST3 that has been submitted to SED, and they review it in comparison to the audit document and go through a process called cleaning it. So I did receive notification today from SED that it has been cleaned and accepted. The grant cycle the dates have shifted a little bit because of COVID. Our applications for round 2 of the CARES Act funding have been submitted. The American Rescue Plan funding for year 1 has been submitted, and I'm wrapping up getting the title application submitted for this year. We will have our financial condition workshop on November 3rd. We hold that every year after the audit cycle is complete so that we can go through some points on the document, take a look at different areas prior to going into budget season, and then talk about some possible initiatives and things like that. So that'll happen on November 3rd, 6:30, 5:30.
I don't remember, but maybe we could do the visitation that day.
What?
Visitation that got canceled for tonight. because I couldn't be here in time. I was
6 PM it says,
sick.
6 on the calendar, yes. Let's see, I did receive a notification from my professional organization. The first 9 months of inflation has been tracked at 4.03%. So with inflation over 4%, that's going to put the tax cap at the maximum 2% for next year. So as we move into that preparation period, yes, we'll be looking at a 2% cap, which could drive our number up or down. So we'll be looking at that very closely. And then finally, Dr. Howard asked me to set up a vaccine clinic here on campus. So that's happening next Tuesday from 1 to 5 PM. So we'll have flu shots, both the regular and the high dose flu, for children, parents, community members. We will have the Pfizer vaccine, the first dose only, and it's being put on by Hannaford. So they will also bring shingles vaccines or pneumonia shots. So they'll have a selection available, bring their insurance card. I know Matt put it on Facebook today, so be sure to share that in the community. We'll use the side entrance right out here, and then S105, which is the room to the left as you walk in that door. No sign up is required, so if parents are picking up their kids after school, they can just come on down and get flu shots for either if they wish.
Parental consent for the kids of.
Oh, absolutely.
Not for you, Terry. You don't.
Okay.
Yes, absolutely. And if anyone chooses to get the Pfizer COVID vaccine, they absolutely need a parent here if they're under 18 because it's for 12 and up at this time. That's it from me.
Okay, so.
You have the special education plan mailed to you. We're currently in the throes of annual review season for students who have 504 accommodation plans.
Okay, thanks, Stella. Nick?
I don't have anything new to report tonight, but I'd be happy to answer any questions if there are any.
Can you talk a little bit about the lights out there, Nick, please?
Sure, I can talk a little bit about the lights. So if you've been in the parking lot in the evenings, you probably noticed that slowly over the years, it started to get darker and darker out there. If you can remember back to the capital project that we did in 2011-12 timeframe, that's when all of those LED lights were put in. The great thing about LED lights is that they last a really long time. The bad thing is when they start to go bad, they're obsolete, you can't get parts for them anymore. So that means that I have to now go through and replace the fixtures in their entirety. So they're close to 10 years old. So we're working on that. We actually received a shipment of 10 heads today to put up in the parking lot. We put one in up today just to test it. I have a lift coming in on Friday to do the remaining 9. We're going to see how those work out, and I think they're going to drastically improve the lighting situation out there, and then we'll start plucking away at them. So things are going to get better quickly out there, but right now it is a little bit dark. So this week we're going to really start hammering on those.
Thanks, Nick.
You're welcome.
Rick, you're up.
How's everybody tonight?
Good, how are you?
Good. So we've been busy as well as everybody else has here in the school. It's been a tough year. Every day we seem to be honing our creative skills as to how to cover bus runs. And we're so far doing okay at it. It's not that we're short drivers. We have enough drivers to cover all the runs, and we have one substitute bus driver and one substitute bus attendant. It's when you end up with the illnesses and the sports trips and all the other stuff that we have to really dig into our creative bag of tricks and see what we can come up with. But I don't think there's any chance, or not much chance, that we would become one of the schools that said we have to close because we can't get our kids in. We'll figure out a way to get them in. And I don't think that will be an issue. Now, there is something that you all can do for us because this is National School Bus Safety Week. So all you have to do to participate in this is to go out and tell all your friends, your neighbors, your relatives, stop for the red light when it's flashing. Because
I saw somebody just the other day, like just blow right by. I
It's
just
getting
could not
worse.
believe it.
it's getting worse.
Is it real?
We had one today, yeah. I have to look at that tomorrow.
Tell someone to stop at a stop sign and a flashing red light.
you have a bigger problem than telling these people to do that.
I mean, actually, I was stopped, they flew by me, so they went around me and I'm just like, are you kidding me right now? Like, really?
So what happens? Can someone take a picture of the license plate or?
Oh, we have, on all of our newer buses, we have state-of-the-art cameras that zoom right in on the license plate. And the problem is determining who was actually driving the bus. And law enforcement, including Jerry here at the school, have been very good in knocking on doors and saying, hey, I've got your license plate here, you know, and you went through the school buses' red lights. But sometimes you don't get the chance to knock on the door because they might have address in, lower New York State.
Ah. Yep, that was it.
Vote for the budget.
So talk it up out there.
I will. I'm just gonna chase that person down. I didn't want to run to the bus. All right, we got John, you're up next.
I'm gonna steal Nick's line and say, if there's any questions, I'll be glad to answer them.
Thank you for your help today. I finally got to my email, so thank you.
That's what we're here for.
Okay. And, okay, next up is Pam. She's not here, but Mary will, she so kindly wheeled her card over here, sorry. Thank you.
You're welcome.
So what is it? Is it Sloppy Joe's?
It is, yeah.
Sloppy Joe's. So that's what's for dinner tonight, guys.
No
Pam-
offense, Mr.
Pam
Costa.
said.
I'll get all over it. Where do you think the name came from? I just throw it out there.
Pam said that the supply issues are starting to affect us here, so that she cannot get hamburger patties right now.
Wow.
Without substitution today, instead of.
Wow. Very creative. It doesn't get worse. It gets better. All right, so there's no old business, so we got new business. So we got the approval of the financial statements presented by Stickler, Torsia, Allen, and Churchill. Can I have a motion, please? Ron, second. Terry, all in favor? All right, next we have the vaccine stipend. So resolved, the Board of Education of Tohoto Central School District hereby approves their agreements with the Tohoto Support Staff Association, the Tohoto Administrators Association, and the Tohoto Middle Management Association, and Tohoto Senior Management Association dated October 12, 2020. Stipend for all Tohoto employees. Motion, please. Joe, second. Heidi, any questions on that? Okay. See, we're gonna put till after executive session. So I need approval for the field trip to the Shakespeare Company of Lenox, Mass on November 18th and November 21st. Can I have a motion, please? Motion, Terry, second. Bill, any questions on that?
They don't do it here?
Do we,
No, we do it here. These are the common classes that take place over there. And Massachusetts regulations for COVID are a little bit stricter in this area than it works.
can we get good participation from those students?
We do, but it seems to be down. Well, this whole process, if people get used to stopping doing things, it's difficult to get them started back up. So it's not, it's in a lot of areas,
It's not just Shakespeare.
not just Shakespeare.
Okay.
Okay, we have the agreement in between the Tohoto Central School District and the Tohoto Senior Management Group. I'm not reading that whole thing. You guys see that? Can I have a motion, please? Joe, second. Ron, any questions? All in favor? Thank you. Next up, we have approval of the 2021-2024 Special Education Plan. Can I have a motion, please? Terry, second. Heidi, any questions on that? All in favor? Okay, so next we have the approval of the 2021 district goals. Can I have a motion, please? Joe, second. Ron, any questions on that? So these are district goals. These weren't our board goals. We did work on board goals, so just make sure that you differentiate that these are different. Any questions on them?
I would just like to say one thing about this.
Sure. Mhm.
These are the goals that we decided on last year,
Yes.
and we're reiterating them this year.
All in favor?
Okay.
All right, thank you. All right, so we have a couple of donations next. We have 2 structural columns for the drama club, an adjustable dress form for costume design and fashion design classes, which that's really cool. And $100 from Richard Rose, a class of 87. Can I have a motion, please? Motion? Terry, second. Ron? So who is Richard Rose?
He literally just sent us a check one day with a donation form. We were able to contact him and ask him if he wanted it used for a particular purpose. He said, no, it's just a donation. So
Did he used to go? He used to go here?
yes,
or-
yes, yes.
Oh, that's nice. That
Was
was
to,
Sorry.
so we were directing it at the elementary supply code.
Nice. That's very nice of him. Thank you, Richard.
He was okay with that.
All in favor?
We sent him an acknowledgement, thank you letter or something.
He will get one, yes, with the board approval.
So the next thing, this 3-page, whatever this is here, I'm not reading, you know. So this is really just an agreement between, Chicana Hills and Columbia County Cooperative Educational Services for the lease on our copier, or printer, right?
Copy the printer of that, sir.
All of that. I wasn't reading all of that. So can I have a motion, please? Bill, second, Joe. So, any questions on that? I mean, it does give you the scheduled payments for the 5 years, so just, I mean, to me, that's the most important part of this words. All in favor? Is there anybody for public forum, the second one? Okay. Additional items to discuss, so, we did mention that the resignation of Craig, so we just want to thank him for his service to the school board. He was here 2 years? Yeah, 2. So we just want to thank him for his service to the school board and wish him well. Neil, did you want to say anything?
The only thing is, the next highest vote getter was an individual who no longer lives in the district. So we'll talk a little bit.
We're going to talk about that in a second.
An executive session on what we think the best way to move forward is, and see what the wishes of the board.
I didn't know that would have been the next person.
Well, that's what we've done in the
We've
past.
done
Fred.
that, that's something that we have done in the past. Actually, that's how I got on the board originally, was when Kevin resigned. I took the spot, so.
There's some choices that we could discuss, but there's no obligation to continue to follow that practice.
Right. Okay, so I need a motion to go into executive session to talk about contract negotiations and appointment history of a particular person. Ron, second. Joe, all in favor. Thank you all.
I'm gonna ask Angela to stay, please.